Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren
and I'm Maureen.
Yeah, so in today's episode, actually it's a fan of ours who sent us the video we are about to react to.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking closely into the lives of the Mau Mau fighters. And for those of you who don't know who these people are, they are the people who fought for Kenyan independence during the colonial times. And in this video, we're just going to see how that era looked like in their eyes.
And the atrocities that were committed by the British government. So let's watch this without saying so much, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Right.
And until the Mau Mau are destroyed, the innocent too must suffer.
The entire history that we are told about British imperialism is a lie. Sir Evelyn Baring was governor of Kenya when Kenya was a colonial possession of the United Kingdoms. And while he was there in the 1950s, he instituted a system of concentration camps. Almost the entire population of the Kikuyu people, then numbering over 1 million people, huge numbers died, some of them of starvation and disease, many beaten to death, burnt to death, tortured to death. Repeatedly, men were castrated. Crush men's testicles and then to cut them off. They raped women with bayonets, they raped men. In some camps, almost the entire population of children died.
And until the Mau Mau are destroyed, the innocent too must suffer.
When Labour MPs asked inconvenient questions about this, on one particular occasion when 11 men were beaten to death, he told the Colonial Secretary to tell the MPs that they had died from drinking contaminated water. Before Britain left Kenya, there was an order sent down, implemented by Special Branch, to conduct what they called a thorough purge of the archives. They burnt crate after crate of documents, be packed into weighted crates, taken as far from the coast as practicable, and dumped into very deep water without currents. The massive fabric of lies, of deletions, which has airbrushed the colonial atrocities practiced everywhere we went. Institutional racism to systemic racism, and a huge part of that ideology began here in the United Kingdom to justify our seizure of other people's resources and other people's lives. These relationships continue by other means. Through our trade relationships today, which are often highly coercive, enforced by offshore tribunals of corporate lawyers, basically forcing countries to give up their natural resources, enforced by international debt, and what we see is a net drain of wealth from the poor nations into the rich nations. This wealth is not just being taken from other people in the world today, it's also being taken from future generations.
Here's what happened to the Mau Mau rebels. Home Guards and the British were especially brutal in their torture, as they would do heinous things like squeeze a woman's breast with pliers, pushing the tips of their rifles into a woman's vagina, castrating men, push rodents into a woman's vagina. Gang rapes were common. They cut off ears as trophies. They shoved beer bottles up women's vaginas. Many were beaten with clubs. Some were tied to a truck and dragged around till their limbs fell off. Children were slaughtered and their limbs put on spears and paraded around the village. Mothers and daughters were raped together. Some were burned with cigarettes. Others were made to walk barefoot over hot coals. A mixture of pepper and water would be inserted into a woman's vagina, and some were made to perform sex acts on the other, even if they were family.
Tomulume akaradwa mukekirwa chuba aikwira tomulume are moi kuradwa nwate yangirwa bute kwaka kwehonge tinokala kwa dona askali ina kwa na atio kwa lubai ingi mata ubya roya bangwachi banka nangu gwenande ayuna kwa tama natanda bandu alubai yoka akwete nyau play.
The oppressors went so far as to engage in forms of post-mortem humiliation. In one instance, a daughter and father were killed. The guards laid the daughter on her back while laying her father between her legs in a sexual manner, naked.
atumia maikaragirio magacina kiria ibati atumia magaikaririo and my aunt was one ata ndangĩaikarire thĩ na nĩ ahũrirwo rĩu andũ arĩa mendaga gũtocwo mũno atumia maikaragĩrio kĩrĩa ibati
nũkĩte nena mũcee tumĩte ilobi vaivotethĩie lũbai na cikali tauma ngalĩni nena ciana itatũ na nĩivu enanetha gũcia awa vandu vaiyĩtwe na seng'eng'e nenakwatiwe novo na kitambaa kinovo na maona mamavwata anakuniwa suva neno kanenethiie musee anokie nake sininye nina ciana ambia ni wavakuiwe avivinywa.
Guys, that was not easy to watch, and I must say a lot of okay, you know, the way the media portrayed, the Western media portrayed the black person was always that and they always said it with pride, you know, the black person is a barbarian. They always say the black person is uncivilized. They always called the black people monsters. But after looking at everything that we had just had to witness, I asked this question: who should be calling who all these names?
Yeah, I think you guys, you can agree with me on this statement or not. Please, we want to genuinely know your opinion on the comment section. But I think, at least here in Africa, before white people came to Africa, black people were not
perversed, like,
yes,
I'll just say perversed.
Yeah, black people were not perversed. But when you hear what these white people did to black people in their own continent, this was just an utter display of their perversion. That is just what I can say as a human being. This was a display of their perversion. And I feel like these people could not do to their women what they were coming to do down here.
They did, only that it was worse on the black people.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a husband could not do this. Inserting a bottle on someone's, you know what, well-mental human being up there in their country, they could not do that to their women because there were laws that were existing that were protecting their women. So you find that person coming down here to do it to a black person because black people at the time were not protected by the same rights that were protecting their white women from these cruel acts.
And that sounds funny because the land is for the black person, you know.
Right. I don't know what you guys think about this topic. I feel like all this just stems from a point of perversion.
Some people would argue that it was, you know, it's in the Bible and they were cast to be that. And I'm like, oh, this is too much, because, you know, when you hear Americans, white people sing of how they're afraid of black people, of how, you know, black people can't act in a civilized manner, and the black man is the origin of all evils, to go even further and depict black people as the devils in their movies. And guys, the lengths that these palm-colored people go to try and hide the truth, because here in Kenya, these documents that really detail what really happened and the atrocities they committed on our soil, these documents, they don't really, I don't think if people can get hold of them, because even in schools, these are not the kind of history we are being taught.
Yeah,
they really aren't.
As the clips we've just watched says, most documents were burnt when Europeans were leaving Africa and Kenya, to be specific. And there's also another documentary where I watched that the documents that were not burnt were shipped away to Europe, and it right now it is in the open, but nobody can access it. It is where MI6 operate from. MI5 and MI6 operate from. So it's like they are storing these documents as a souvenir of their barbaric acts against black people, you know, yet storing them far away from the public limelight for their own people to see the naked truth of how they are. You know, like when they say when you look at in the mirror, the naked truth of
who you are
will stare right back at you.
It doesn't matter the amount of makeup you have on.
Yes, and that is what these documents will show to their kids right now if they saw the documents.
And right now, I just have to say our ancestors must be ashamed of us, because when you look at the number of Africans who really, really wish to have a relationship with these palm-colored people, both men and women, and they romanticize the idea of you being married to
white person, yes.
And as a black parent, as an African parent, I'm telling you for
if
sure.
You are, for example, like me and Maren, the way we are siblings like this, Maren marries a white man and I marry a black man. Maren will be the VIP of our homestead. And I'm not joking with you guys.
And you'll find if Maureen is marrying the black husband, he will be asked to get dowry. The things that they'll demand of the black man, he'll have to fulfill all of them. Despite him being broke,
he'll have to sweat blood and tears to pay my dowry. But Maren's white husband,
if he was demanded to pay a certain limit of dowry, and he comes and say, let me just marry your daughter right now, I don't have the kind of money to fulfill the dowry expectations, but I'll pay it off slowly. Do you know these African parents are going to even give their daughters away for free? And that is unfortunately the society we live in, and I know our ancestors will be so ashamed of us. And I'm saying, if these people could really sit down, because a lot of the times when this happens, a few women, a good number from the city, of course, who are married to white people, maybe might have a little exposure, but they still haven't dug deep into their history. But I tell you, 100% of those who come from the village and marry white people, and there's a good number of those, they truly don't know. That is the same person. If you sit them down and play them such a documentary, be sure their minds will be awakened. Do you understand?
Right.
But I don't know why our government still don't play such documentaries on. Do you know, here we have a national station where every public holidays we are going to be bored by the president's speech. I'm just saying. They're going to be playing all sorts of loyal.
Sorry guys.
You can explain that.
My neck is painful. Sorry, I laughed too hard and I felt they fell.
So they're going to be boring us with public holiday. Well, it's important that because it helps with the patriotism of the country, right? But I'm saying, if they can have such, programs that they normally never fail to play on national television,
it would be just great for the Kenyan government, especially their
not just
TV
Kenyan
station,
but any African government,
any African government and their national TV station to be playing these pieces of documentaries for young Africans to know their history, because it's very clear these young Africans are not being taught their history by their parents. Why? Because their parents don't also know the history of the people back then.
And whatever is taught in schools, this is very detailed, I can assure you, but in schools we only get the
masked version of what happened during colonialism.
You'll only be told that Mau, if you were captured, you'd be unalived. They never talk about the part where the men were, snipped.
The men were snipped and laid flat like women, and the women were taken advantage of by a group of those white people.
Those are just sadistic things. I feel like any human person, human beings do have issues, but I feel like the one who has humanity, the length that they don't even go, this one just even past that length and went too far.
Right.
There are things that any person who has humanity in them, they don't do.
And Maren, I think it's fair to note that I believe the biggest reason why they hide these very gruesome documents from even their own people is because what you said about humanity. Much as white people did this and that to black people, I believe there are a few or a good number of white people who, when these documents get out for them to see what their forefathers did and still continue to do to black populations, there'll be an uprising within their very own groups of people. They'll see each other as what they truly are. So and I feel right now I feel like there's that palm colored people know how to play their game, and there's that if they I don't know how to put it, but
they don't want black people, but at the same time they don't want to let go. It's like a toxic relationship between black and whites, but from the white side they don't like black people, but at the same time they can't live without them, kind of thing.
It's like they are cast to be attached to us in some weird way,
but not
toxic.
like, yeah, I don't know if you guys are getting what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why am I saying this? Because even here, when you look, you understand why they don't want these things exposed, because the comments that we normally get, and it's not just comments but even abroad, when you start talking about truth and what yari yari yari, you know, people come out and say you're trying to divide people. We need one America, to divide people. Sorry, we need one America. We need one human race. Not,
but you know, in that one human race, some diabolical mind amidst all of us is always devising how to be an edge ahead of, you know, other people. But anyway, this being said, I just feel like you know, being one people is not bad, but also in order for you to prevent history from repeating itself, it's imperative for black people to learn where they're coming from and who was responsible for putting them in the situations that they are in.
And it's important for people to have these conversations, because if a palm colored person somewhere sits down and says, you know, that happened a long time ago, get over it, you know, they need to hear what happened.
Yeah, okay. Not that happened, what exactly happened, in order for it to be a shared responsibility for both black and white people to ensure
black people
that
a good number remember what happened.
Yeah, for both black and black and white people to ensure that history doesn't repeat itself. It shouldn't have to rely on black people alone to forget it and hope that history never repeats itself.
What I'm wondering is, you know, I don't know if it's wise to mention, but the Queen has been the longest ruler, I think, right, of Britain.
And in this documentary, it says the atrocities that were being committed in Kenya, it was known even to the highest powers that were during her time.
And it wasn't only in Kenya. This was the situation, the whole of Africa. This was the situation. Or anywhere where European colonized in other continents, so it didn't just happen to Africans. And what I'm asking myself, you being a woman, right, and being in a leadership position, and you send out people to conquer, knowing very well whatever would happen in these things, it's because you allowed it, and it's not just you. So long as they plundered wealth and brought it to you to use to bring, they brought you your pals, you know. So long as they brought you wealth so that Britain could become a great nation. So long as, you know, it benefited you, it just didn't matter, and for you, you just didn't care, so long as the job was done.
I
feel like you guys just let us know what you think about this episode. I think we'll leave it there. Let us know what you think about this episode, and if you've not subscribed to our channel, kindly do so. I know we'll appreciate it very much.
Yeah, so see you on our next episode.